Imagine driving home after a long day, minding your business, when flashing red and blue lights suddenly appear in your rearview mirror. You know you weren't speeding, didn't run a light, and certainly didn't break any laws. But as you pull over, something about the officer's approach feels off. That's exactly what happened to Judge Malcolm Wright, a highly respected black judge known for his fairness and integrity. On his way home from a long day in court, he's stopped by Officer Bradley, a white cop with a reputation for being aggressive, especially toward people who look like Malcolm. From the moment Officer Bradley steps out of his car, his attitude is tense, his hand already hovering near his holster. "License and registration," the officer barks, his tone sharp. Malcolm calmly complies, handing over his documents, but instead of a routine check, things take a turn. Officer Bradley doesn't recognize the judge and starts making assumptions, questioning Malcolm as if he were a criminal. The tension rises. Malcolm knows his rights, but Officer Bradley seems determined to escalate the situation. What happens next will leave you speechless, because when the truth about Malcolm's identity comes out, everything changes. But will it be too late? Stay tuned, because this story is about to take a shocking turn. Malcolm keeps his hands visible on the steering wheel, his heartbeat steady but alert. He's been in enough courtrooms to know how quickly situations like this can spiral out of control. Officer Bradley examines the judge's license with a skeptical glance, his expression unreadable. "Step out of the vehicle," he orders. The request is firm, but unnecessary. Malcolm knows he hasn't done anything wrong. "Is there a reason for this, officer?" Malcolm asks, his voice calm yet commanding. Bradley's eyes narrow. "Don't make this difficult." His hand lingers near his belt, the tension thick between them. Malcolm takes a deep breath. He knows arguing won't help. Slowly, he unbuckles his seatbelt and steps out. The night air feels heavier than usual, the streetlights casting long shadows. Bradley glances at the car, then back at Malcolm. "This your vehicle?" Malcolm nods. "It's registered in my name. Feel free to check." But that's not what Bradley does. Instead, he radios in, his voice low, muttering something Malcolm can't quite hear. Seconds later, another squad car pulls up, lights flashing. A second officer steps out, watching closely. Malcolm senses the shift, the way Bradley positions himself, the way the other officer sizes him up. Something isn't right, and Malcolm is starting to realize this stop might not have been random at all. Malcolm stands tall, his eyes shifting between the two officers. He spent years in courtrooms, watching cases unfold, hearing stories from both sides of the law. But tonight, he's living a story he's heard too many times before. Bradley steps closer, sizing Malcolm up. "You fit the description of someone we're looking for," he says, his voice clipped. Malcolm raises an eyebrow. "And what description is that?" Bradley doesn't answer right away. He glances at his partner, who remains by the second squad car, watching but saying nothing. The silence stretches, thick with unspoken words. Malcolm knows this game. Keep the suspect uneasy, make them second-guess, push them toward a mistake. But he isn't some rookie caught in a bad situation. He knows exactly where he stands. "My ID is right there," Malcolm says, nodding toward Bradley's hand, still gripping his license. "You've already run my plates. There's nothing to find." Bradley's jaw tightens. The radio crackles, and he exchanges a quick look with his partner. Malcolm notices it, the hesitation, the flicker of doubt. They know they're in the wrong, but something is keeping them from backing down. Then Bradley makes a choice. He reaches for Malcolm's wrist. "Turn around," he says. Malcolm doesn't resist, but he doesn't move either. "Are you arresting me?" His voice is steady. Bradley doesn't answer. But in this moment, Malcolm realizes this isn't about law, it's about control, and they have no idea who they're dealing with. Malcolm feels the pressure of Bradley's grip tightening around his wrist. The street is quiet, but the weight of the moment is deafening. He knows better than to resist, but he also knows he has rights. "Officer, I'm asking again, am I being arrested?" Malcolm's voice remains steady, but there's an edge to it now. Bradley hesitates. His partner shifts uncomfortably, but doesn't intervene. The power struggle is clear. Bradley is too deep into his decision to back down now. "You're being detained," Bradley finally says. "Turn around." "For what?" Malcolm presses, forcing the officer to say it out loud. Bradley exhales sharply. Suspicion of a stolen vehicle. Malcolm blinks. A stolen vehicle. He lets out a dry chuckle. "You ran my plates. You have my ID in your hand. You know exactly who I am." Bradley doesn't respond, but the tension in his jaw deepens. His partner takes a slow step forward, as if sensing the situation is slipping out of control. Malcolm remains still. He can feel the energy shifting. A few passing cars slow down, their drivers glancing curiously. Someone down the street pulls out a phone, possibly recording. Bradley notices too. His grip tightens. He's at a crossroads. Double down or back off. And then, out of nowhere, a voice cuts through the tension. "Officer, what exactly are you doing?" Everyone turns. A third figure steps forward from the shadows. Someone with authority. Someone who might change everything. Bradley's grip loosens just slightly as he turns toward the voice. A tall man in a dark suit steps into the dim glow of the streetlights, his expression unreadable. Malcolm exhales slowly, recognizing him instantly. Detective Eric Lawson, someone who doesn't just work within the system, but knows exactly how it operates. "Sir, this is an ongoing investigation," Bradley says quickly, his tone shifting. There's hesitation now, a crack in his confidence. Lawson folds his arms. "An investigation? Into what?" He glances at Malcolm, then at the second officer, who suddenly looks unsure. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're making a mistake." Bradley clears his throat, still gripping Malcolm's wrist. This man is suspected of driving a stolen vehicle. Lawson raises an eyebrow. "A stolen vehicle." His voice is almost amused. "Is that what dispatch told you?" A beat of silence. Bradley doesn't answer. The radio at his hip crackles again, but he ignores it. Malcolm watches closely, feeling the shift. Lawson is pressing, forcing Bradley into a corner where he has to either admit his mistake or escalate the situation further. But before Bradley can respond, another squad car pulls up, this time with its sirens off. Two officers step out, but they don't immediately approach. One of them is a sergeant. And suddenly, Malcolm realizes this situation is bigger than just him. Something else is happening here. And whatever it is, it's about to come to light. The sergeant approaches, his expression serious. "Officer Bradley, step aside," he commands. Bradley hesitates but releases Malcolm's wrist, stepping back reluctantly. Detective Lawson turns to Malcolm. "Judge Wright, are you all right?" he asks, his tone respectful. Malcolm nods, adjusting his cuff. "I am now, Detective. Thank you." The sergeant addresses Bradley. "Officer, we've received multiple complaints about your conduct during traffic stops. This incident has been under review." Bradley's face pales. "I was just doing my job," he mutters defensively. Lawson interjects. "Your job doesn't include profiling or unnecessary aggression. Judge Wright's rights were violated tonight." The sergeant nods. "Officer Bradley, hand over your badge and weapon. You're suspended pending further investigation." As Bradley reluctantly complies, Malcolm watches, a mix of relief and disappointment washing over him. He had hoped for better from those sworn to uphold the law. Turning to Malcolm, Lawson offers a sincere apology. "On behalf of the department, I apologize for this ordeal. We're committed to ensuring accountability." Malcolm offers a tight smile. "I appreciate that, Detective. Let's hope this leads to real change." As the night air settles, Malcolm realizes this encounter, though harrowing, might serve as a catalyst for much-needed reform within the force. Yet, the journey ahead remains uncertain, and the fight for justice continues. As Officer Bradley is escorted to his squad car, Malcolm takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the night settle in. He had spent years upholding the law, believing in justice, and yet, in an instant, he had been reduced to just another suspect in the eyes of someone who saw him as less than he was. Detective Lawson stays behind as the other officers clear the scene. "I know this isn't the first time something like this has happened," he says quietly, "but I promise it won't go unnoticed." Malcolm studies him for a moment, searching for sincerity. He nods. Accountability is the first step, but the real change happens when people stop looking away. Lawson gives a small, understanding nod before heading back to his car. As Malcolm slides into his own vehicle, he takes a moment to collect himself. The night had taken an unexpected turn, but it reinforced something he already knew: change doesn't come easily. As he drives away, the city lights reflecting in his rearview mirror, he can't help but wonder how many others have faced the same moment of doubt, the same test of dignity. But one thing is certain: this story isn't just his. It's bigger than one night, and it's far from over.